So South Africa's fried chicken wars are heating up, with a new rival quietly joining the fight. Today we're unpacking how Shoprite is taking on KFC's crown, FlySafair's second labor clash in 4 months, and why South Africa could finally earn its first ratings upgrade in over a decade. Plus, in the Wildcard, the 300-year-old story behind one of the country's signature snacks. My friends, if you are enjoying the show, be sure to like and subscribe. And now, with all that out the way, let's get into it. For years, South Africa's fried chicken throne has belonged to KFC, but now the country's biggest grocer just threw its hat in the ring. You see, Colonel Sanders still rules the roost, roughly a quarter of the fast food market, over 1,000 outlets and millions of customers a week. Chicken Licken and Hungry Lion still hold their own, and newcomers like Pedro's are expanding faster than a lunchtime queue. And so into that battlefield steps ChicRite, Shoprite's in-store fried chicken counter. There are already about 80 across the country, 60 of them opened over the last 18 months. And look, it's a smart play, no rent, built-in foot traffic, and one food that South Africans never seem to tire of. Believe it or not, chicken now makes up the biggest slice of South Africa's fast food spend. Roughly 15 million people buy it every month. Now, Shoprite claims it's about meeting shoppers where they are, not going head-to-head with KFC. But in saying that, the branding, rollout speed, and positioning suggest otherwise. And so look, if you're eating chips and chicken between the grocery aisles, make no mistake, you're in the war zone. So all in all, KFC's grip on the market may not loosen overnight, but ChicRite's arrival shows how far grocery retail is blurring into fast food. And so in a country where chicken is both comfort and survival, that overlap could be worth billions. It hasn't been the best year for FlySafair, and for once that turbulence isn't in the sky. Just 4 months after a pilot strike grounded flights, South Africa's biggest low-cost carrier is again caught in a labour storm. But this time with its cabin crew. The South African Cabin Crew Association says that wage talks have hit a wall, prompting a company lockout for staff who refuse to sign the latest deal. FlySafair insists that passengers won't feel a thing. With contingency crews in place and a reduced November schedule for fleet maintenance, it says that every flight will still take off. Now, the airline offered a 5.7% pay rise, a 7.5% annual bonus, and new monthly allowances, calling it exceptionally generous in a year where most workers earn between 3 to 5%. But union reps argue that the real issue here is about fairness, from maternity leave to lunch hour sacrifices that go unpaid. So for a carrier moving 30,000 passengers a day and controlling 60% of South Africa's domestic market, the numbers look good, but the optics don't. Because when your year includes 2 lockouts, 2 disputes, and 1 too many press releases about no disruptions, it's hard to call that smooth flying. South Africa might finally be climbing out of junk status. At least a little. You see, for the past 5 years, global rating agencies like S&P, Moody's, and Fitch have labeled South Africa's government debt as sub-investment grade, essentially meaning it is too risky for many big investors. But now, Bank of America says that Standard & Poor's could bump us up a notch this month from BB- to BB. Now, I get it sounds small, but it means that international markets may start seeing South Africa as a bit safer to lend to. So what's the case for this upgrade? Well, the country's debt is stabilizing, growth is picking up, and the new government of national unity has managed a rare stretch of political calm. Also, reforms under Operation Vulindlela, from fixing Eskom supply to unclogging rails and ports, are slowly working. Still, though, the risk side is real. Weak tax revenue, high spending, and those 30% US tariffs that haven't disappeared. But after a decade of downgrades, even a single notch higher would mark the first step towards the investment grade club. And hey, maybe cheaper borrowing for everyone, from Treasury to taxpayers. And before we cruise on to our Bagel Bite of the day, here's a couple other headlines worth knowing. For starters, government leaders met at the Cradle of humankind this weekend, adopting a 5-year medium-term development plan focused on jobs, crime, food security, and public service reform, with GNU parties reaffirming their unity after months of budget tension. Public sector infrastructure spending rose 18% last year to 276 billion rand, nearly back to its 2016 peak, driven by Eskom, PRASA, and SANRAL projects. Treasury's next goal is 1 trillion rand in investment over the next 3 years. And drivers get relief tomorrow as petrol prices drop by 51 cents a litre and diesel by about 20. A stronger rand and weaker oil markets are behind the cuts, trimming transport costs heading into summer. And on to our Bagel Bite of the day. Let's see what you got. The question is, what is the national sport of Japan? Is it A, karate, B, sumo wrestling, or C, judo? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. And on to our wildcard section. Jerky may be America's dried meat of choice, but in South Africa, it never stood a chance. The climates and the cultures made the real difference. You see, in the American frontier, cold, smoky fires helped dehydrate meat fast, producing that thin, leathery jerky that could make it last long through the winters. But South Africa's settlers faced the opposite problem: heat, dust, and endless sun. So when Dutch and Huguenot farmers trekked inland around the 1700s, they used vinegar, salt, and saltpeter, not smoke, to keep their meat edible for weeks. And the Karoo winds did the rest. And so that slow cure kept the fat, softened the texture, and gave biltong its signature tang, something that jerky's dry crackle could never match. So by the 20th century, jerky arrived in South Africa through imported snacks, but locals already had a better version, thicker, fresher, and rooted in tradition. And so today, that tradition has become a full industry, from small-town butchers to export-certified producers, shipping biltong to shelves in Perth, London, and Dubai, where it's sold as South Africa's signature snack. And as for that bagel bite, the answer is sumo wrestling, Japan's national sport and one of the oldest traditions, dating back over 1,500 years. It's still performed with sacred Shinto rituals before every match, proof that in Japan, even sport comes with ceremony. And my friends, that's it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is your weekly reminder that if you do prefer your news on the go, whether you're running or driving or partaking in sumo wrestling, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links to both of those are either in our description below or our bio. Hope you guys all have a great day. Be kind to one another. We'll catch you all tomorrow for the next round of the good stuff. God bless.